everybody. Welcome to the next big rush today. And I actually mean today, as we're recording this is ongoing right now. The price of spot uranium is absolutely on a tear. There are some reliable sources citing $77 per pound. When this gentleman and I started talking, I think it was below 60. And so a lot has happened. And who better to talk about uranium than a guy that has been doing it successfully, with the highlighting of the word successfully, for, I don't know, the better part of 15, 20 years or something like that. Dev Randhawa,
Thank you.
CEO of F3 and Strathmore. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So what's up with uranium? Like, why does it matter right now? Because as this is happening, as we're recording this, I see a lot of people are going to be more interested in the thesis, and they're going to start to ask, okay, first of all, why is this happening right now? Does it still have legs? And then secondly, who's who in the zoo and what kind of companies are out there? And then we're going to talk about F3, obviously, and your amazing discovery.
Well, yeah, I think the information that you and I were talking about, what looks so obvious to the average individual, we look at the math, but unfortunately, energy issues are political issues. So when you use politics involved, logic goes out the window, and, like someone says, platitudes and platitudes, but eventually platitudes versus physics, they say, well, physics wins. And so I think Germany is your poster child for spending almost $1 trillion of taxpayers' money to build 3,900 kilometers of connecting wind and solar, and got 390 done. So 1% of what they were hoping to do with their money just wasted all this taxpayers' money. And now, because they're not ready for the future, they're using coal. So in order to talk about this net zero and et cetera, we know that you can't do that without nuclear. Nuclear has to be a central part of any conversation. Because it answers two big problems in the world right now: self-reliant on, have your own energy security, right? And they want clean energy. And so the first time when I got into business, 1996, and it's the first time that the Democrats in the U.S., for example, are seeing it that, okay, we've got to have nuclear if we're going to reach any of our, I would call, unrealistic goals. And then the Republicans are going, hold on, we need uranium to ensure, okay, we need to ensure that we've got our own source. We can't be counting on the Russians and et cetera. And again, we saw that with Ukraine. We've seen that with Germany, where Russians hold it over their head. So we've seen that. So for $77 uranium, I don't think it's anywhere near where it's going to go, because the problem is it's been an elastic band now for so long. And also remember, the price of a pound of uranium absolutely means nothing to a nuclear plant. Nothing. It's 3 to 5% of running of a plant. So what does it matter if it goes to 100 or 200? So you're hearing people talk about $150, $200 uranium. So we're seeing it, but we saw this, we looked at the math. But the problem is politicians have a huge drag time. And if they can kick that can down the road and try to live in that fantasy of renewables, as I was joking with some friends the other day, renewables are the socialist of the energy mix. They work very little, and they need and demand help from the government. There's no other way renewables will work, because they dollar for dollar, it is just so hard. The math doesn't make sense. And finally now the math is sticking its head up and going, it doesn't work. So Sweden, going, we're going to build 2 big reactors. We're going to build small ones. When countries like Sweden step up, bang. China's been doing it. That's the thing. China has been doing it, but it's by necessity. They need power. when you consider in the world 8 billion people, but roughly they say 1.5 billion don't have any power, another 2 billion are starved energy wise. So you've got what, 3.5 billion out of the 8 that need more energy. Where's it going to come from? And it's not going to come from renewables, and unless they accept the fact a lot more needs to continue to come from fossils, nuclear is your only answer. So it's taken people some time, but finally I think they're realizing. That's why I think uranium's got a long ways to go yet.
I almost feel like my generation has been duped into the whole renewable, spiel, because we looked at the numbers initially and it all sounded amazing. And I think one mistake that we made is to confuse capacity, maximum capacity, with actual energy generation. The fact that a windmill can produce X amount of energy doesn't mean that it will, because you know what, like if there's no wind, it won't produce it, period, end of story. And I think when you enter a model with one input that's incorrect, like the whole thing just does not work out. And people have made absolute billions selling this idea that renewables are enough. And now we're going back to the drawing board saying, the technology that we had in the 50s and 60s, obviously, newer generation and safer models, but like what we knew physically, and down to the chemicals, like that works, and it still works today. And uranium is the only thing that powers everything. You've heard about thorium and all these crazy possibilities, but uranium is still the only thing that can actually feed these power plants, which is amazing. So I'm 100%, very much still in the thesis, will not even flinch before we reach at least $100. And then I might start looking at where we are in the market. But from then until now, there is no alternative to uranium. But you've been successful at actually making a really high grade discovery before with fission, and now you're doing it again with F3. And that's what I really want to focus in on, because as people come into the thesis, they're going to look at different companies, Dev, and they're going to see, okay, so you have a couple of producers in Chemical and Kazatomprom. Then you have, late stage developers. Some, I would say most, in tough jurisdictions, in Africa, or in jurisdictions where, your permits can get pulled very easily. And then you have earlier stage discovery plays. And to me personally, I cannot find another discovery that's been as substantial as F3's. The JR zone and everything around it has been absolutely phenomenal this year. Like, you guys take the cake. What do you have so far, and what are you discovering about F3 and your Patterson Lake or North?
Yeah. PLN, yeah, it's easy to confuse us with PLN. Well, first of all, I think if there was any doubt that which is the premier exploration play, if there was any doubt before, it's over. 4 meters of 29%. Like, even
that was your latest hit, right? That was your latest announcement.
Before this confirmed, we're by far the most premier exploration play in the Athabasca. And I say Athabasca, I point that out because if I'm in Niger, I wouldn't be as confident. We have challenges like anybody in North America. We've got to deal with environmental issues, First Nations issues. We've got those too, but we don't have a situation where they change governments and they kill people. And that's what's happened in Niger. It happened once before. No one listened. Happens again. So, unfortunately, investors have a short memory and they forget. I remember when it happened before, people actually got murdered in an actual nuclear plant. So we're in Canada, where it's the best jurisdiction in the world, not just politically, but the highest grades. When you find uranium, you can get to 2%. So this 4 meters of 29% has put the final nail in, going, is the best exploration play in the basin. We got a long ways to go. We've got to investors are very impatient, I have found, and they think, you know, just like, hey, when's going to work? Well, I'm sure Ray and Sam are going to fill the entire thing up with £500 million. It's a slow process. We've got the one conductor, right? And that's going down. And then we have found another one we're very excited about. And we saw the alteration rock. That should excite investors, because when you have that much alteration and it's so bleached, it tells you uranium has been flooding through that zone. So where's that pod? We don't know yet. But what we've done, and people got upset about it, we backed off. Instead of putting 2 rigs on there and spending all our money, we said, listen, this is a brand new area, but we have not looked at it, stepped back at it, did some more ground geophysics, knowing what here's the thing. Every time you drill a hole, investors will call it a miss. We call it educational. Okay, we're looking for this, we didn't get this. These are chemicals, we didn't get those. Over here we did. And you put that together, you know, and that's how Ray and Sam picked their targets. And so we've got this beautiful pot of uranium. I don't know how many pounds it'll be. We're not allowed to say. It has to be done by third party with the rules we have. But we've got this beautiful, beautiful section. Now, the question is, what else is along that conductor? And what's in that other conductor? They call this one A1, A1B. So we gotta test those and see if we can find other pods like that. But we've got 1 rig going now. It's going much slower because the rock is a lot harder. So, you know, it was the same way when we first started on A1. It was really slow, and then we learn, and it gets quicker. It goes down to 2 or 3 days. So our next steps is to find another pod. So while we continue to grow the JR zone, right, every way we can, we're also then taking shots down on the A1. But until we get all the data back from the ground geophysics, the flying over it, till we do get all that information, we won't have, I think, our best targets. So the best, in my view, is yet to come. Our last flying and ground was done over 8 years ago. So we just done it, and we're quite excited about getting information. So we got to find more uranium. That's the next step. But right now, if there was any doubt in someone's mind, what's the best exploration play out there? It's F3.
That's it. And the stock ran really hard to begin with whenever you guys first made the discovery. Yeah. And then it mostly went sideways. And I told people for a long time, like, guys, relax. Like the project has to prove itself to make sure that, you know, price, the market cap versus what they're discovering has some sort of balance. I do believe that now we're probably entering a phase where the stock might be ready to run again. Obviously, this is not financial advice, and we can't control or predict this. I do hear it in the grapevine that, you know, there are some very important industry-based publications that are coming out and giving F3 a thumbs up and saying, no, we're entering this. This is possibly bigger than we initially imagined, that kind of thing. But also the grade is undeniable. One thing that you can't argue with is that you guys have been able to hit extremely off the charts high grade. And the continuation of that has been at that same level, which is not something you find very easily. Now, I also see other plays in the Athabasca Basin, and, you know, most of them, they're near misses, right? It's like they find something, but it's not quite it, or the grades aren't quite there. What makes F3 different, and how have you been able to just consistently find great people to work with and great geologists that seem to have, you know, a track record that people would envy?
Well, I said it before we made the discovery. I said, all junior companies are all about the people, number one, okay? And you got to pay well. You know, I get criticized for paying my staff quite well. You know, when someone's really good like Ray, you know, and Sam, they can ask whatever they want. People just forget that it's a, you know, you know, you pay for what you get, and we've got the best. I really do think Ray and Sam are the best geophysicists in the world. Ross was a great geologist. And so, but you got to understand, most of uranium in the basin is so deep. It's really about geophysics as much as if not more than geology, right? You got to have both, but it's really about looking at the ground. It's about hiring the right people, treating them properly. Again, sometimes that goes against what investors think. I go out of my way to treat them properly and with respect. I treat their families with respect. You know, so yeah, I bonus my guys. The problem also drilling, by the way, all the time. Do you know that I've never sold a single share of my stock in my entire career of a company I was in, you know, unless I sold a company. Like F3, everybody can go through my entire record. Look at FCU, same thing. Never sold a share. And our guys can't do that either. So you got to pay them well. And so, you know, that rubs some people away, you know, but the problem is, and also when times are tough, you know, I was the one that didn't take a salary, you know, and, you know, other companies, I don't take a salary. If the company can't afford it, I don't take it. I'll take more equity. So I think it comes down to motivating people so that investors and management are aligned in the same direction.
Awesome.
And you do that with stock, and you do that by treating them properly.
And so the end result is essentially the difference between, you know, a $10 million market cap company and a 150 million one is that people, you know, cost a little more, but totally worth it.
You got to get them home to their families. You know, we're going to shut down at Christmas for a couple of weeks because I want people to be home with their families for Christmas. And, you know, that kind of thing, you've got to do that. Get people home to their families. And again, pay them. If you want the best, you got to pay for the best, especially when they got track records. I mean, it's one thing to make one discovery. That's really tough, super hard. 2, impossible. 3, I don't know where to put number 3. I really don't. And so that's what really pisses me off when people, you know, start to, you know, wonder if our team is committed. And because I think, hang on, you know, people have such short-term, investors have short-term memories. They forget, you know, what this team has done. And end of the day, results matter. That's all that really matters. And if 4 meters and 29% doesn't do it for you, I don't know what will.
Then they should be invested in something else completely. Like if you don't think this is good enough, then sorry, uranium is not for you. So we're entering the winter season here soon enough. What is the plan? What can investors expect moving forward?
Well, we've got this big conductor. Now we've got a second conductor. We've increased it over 1 kilometer. That's very significant. That kind of gets lost in news releases. We've extended it. There's a reason we've extended it. So we've got another conductor now that we're going to be testing. We have an extra kilometer to play with. I've been to site, and it's from a chopper, it looks pretty close, but when you get in the ground, it's not. So we've got these 2 conductors now, and we're going to be testing all along them. As I said, we've down to 1 rig. So we use some of our staff to do the EM and fly over it. We want better targets. So we hopefully should have them in the coming weeks. Once we have them, we will then going more aggressively at those targets. So we're going to keep drilling all winter. It won't stop except during Christmas. And yeah, it's pretty excited. Like I said, when you hit 4 meters at 29%, you go, okay, this is pretty serious. Now, is it going to become an arrow, triple R? I don't know any of that stuff. People ask me. All I do know is that this project is in great hands with Ray and Sam.
And moving forward then within, you know, this campaign, this winter campaign, can we expect scintillometer readings or just lab results? Are you guys going to hold back a little bit?
I leave those choices to the guys. They like to do them in groupings, you know, if they can. And one thing we haven't talked about, and we should, and I don't mean to change paths, but Denison's investment in us. You know, if 4 meters doesn't do it, how about Dennison, which is a multi-billion-dollar company who have access to our data room, who know a lot, okay, smart people having full access to your information. Then they say, we'll pay 56 cents. And the stock goes to 31. Oh my gosh. It's like, and that's the problem. Who's giving advice out there these days? That's what I want to know. That you would sell a stock at 31 cents, that a major uranium company just put money at 56 cents. You know, it's the same people who probably thought renewables would work, I guess. The same mentality.
That's right. That's very right. Awesome. Dev, thank you so much. Where can people find out more about F3?
Well, you know, obviously you go on the website and everything else, and our boys are pretty good at answering questions. So ask any questions and we look forward to getting back to you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Dev. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.